She took her lover to Hawaii using another woman's name, so I upgraded their suite and charged his real wife. Well, I'll tell you everything from the beginning. You know how they say trust your gut? Mine had been screaming at me for weeks, but I kept pushing it down like some kind of emotional indigestion. My wife Sarah had been different lately, not the obvious kind of different that makes you immediately suspicious, but the subtle shifts that gnaw at you when you're lying awake at 3 in the morning. She'd started taking longer showers, keeping her phone face down during dinner, and worst of all, she'd developed this habit of humming while she got ready for work. Sarah never hummed. In 8 years of marriage, I'd maybe heard her hum twice, and both times she was drunk at Christmas parties. But here she was, practically auditioning for a Disney movie every morning, and it made my skin crawl. Then came the bombshell that shattered my world into 1,000 pieces. I have to go to Portland for a medical conference, she announced over breakfast one Tuesday morning, not even looking up from her phone. It's next weekend, Friday through Sunday. The way she said it was too casual, too rehearsed, like she'd been practicing in the mirror. I work in software engineering, so I notice patterns, and this felt like a script. Medical conference? I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. Since when do you attend medical conferences? Sarah worked as a development director at the Women's Empowerment Foundation, great cause, decent pay, but definitely not medical field territory. She finally looked up, and I caught something flickering in her eyes before she put on that sweet smile that used to make my heart skip. Oh, it's about women's health advocacy. Very relevant to our work. The lie sat between us like a dead fish, but I just nodded and went back to my coffee. The rest of the week crawled by with the speed of continental drift. I watched her pack Thursday night, and that's when the gut feeling exploded into full-blown alarm bells. This woman who claimed to be attending a boring work conference was carefully folding lingerie I'd never seen before, black lace that definitely hadn't come from Target. She packed 3 different sundresses, sandals that screamed beach vacation, and enough skincare products to stock a small spa. When she thought I wasn't looking, she slipped a brand new bikini into her suitcase. A bikini. For Portland. In March. Either Portland had developed a sudden tropical climate, or my wife was headed somewhere significantly warmer than the Pacific Northwest. Looks like you're packing for Hawaii instead of Oregon, I joked, testing the waters. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might pass out. Oh, you know me, she laughed, but it sounded forced, brittle. I always overpack. Besides, the hotel has a spa, so I figured I'd treat myself. More lies, each one driving the knife deeper into my chest. Friday morning arrived like a death sentence. Sarah kissed me goodbye at the door, the same goodbye kiss she'd given me thousands of times before, but this one felt different. Final. I'll call you tonight, she promised, already pulling away. The conference schedule is pretty packed, but I'll try to check in. I watched her drive away in her Honda Civic, probably heading to the airport for a flight that definitely wasn't going to Portland. The silence in our house felt suffocating, like the walls were pressing in on me. I wandered around aimlessly for a few hours, trying to distract myself with work, but concentration was impossible. My mind kept replaying every suspicious moment from the past few weeks, every lie, every deflection. By afternoon, I was ready to climb the walls. That's when I noticed her laptop sitting open on the kitchen counter. Sarah was religious about closing her laptop. She'd drilled it into me 100 times about security protocols at work. But there it sat, screen still glowing, like a gift from the universe. My hands shook as I moved the mouse, and what I saw made my blood turn to ice water. Her email was open, and right there at the top was a confirmation from the Maui Bay Resort. Not Portland. Not a medical conference. Maui. The email was addressed to Sarah Patterson, not Sarah Chin, her actual married name. My brain struggled to process this information, like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. I clicked on the confirmation with trembling fingers, and each detail hit me like a physical blow. Premium Ocean View Suite. Couples romantic package. Spa treatments for 2. Champagne welcome basket. Airport transfers for 2 guests. The total cost made my stomach lurch, over $4,000 for 3 nights, all charged to her personal credit card. $4,000 for what was supposed to be a work conference. My wife, the woman I'd trusted with my heart and my future, had been planning this elaborate deception for weeks. The worst part? The reservation was under Sarah Patterson, which meant she was either using a fake name or, and this possibility made my head spin, she was pretending to be married to someone else. Someone with the last name Patterson. I sat there staring at the screen, my mind racing through all the implications. This wasn't just cheating. This was a complete fabrication of her entire life. She'd created a whole alternate identity just to betray me. My hands moved on autopilot, taking screenshot after screenshot of everything. The hotel confirmation, the flight details, the romantic package descriptions. I documented it all with the methodical precision of someone who'd suddenly found their purpose. Each screenshot felt like gathering evidence for a trial, and in a way, I suppose that's exactly what I was doing. As I saved the final image to my desktop, something cold and calculating settled over me. The hurt was still there, burning in my chest like acid, but alongside it grew something else. A plan. Sarah thought she was so clever, so careful with her lies and her fake identity. She had no idea that she just handed me everything I needed to completely dismantle her perfect little fantasy. The conference was supposed to end Sunday night, which gave me exactly 3 days to figure out who Sarah Patterson was supposed to be, and more importantly, how to make sure this trip became the biggest mistake of her life. Let me break down exactly how I turned the tables on her. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of clarity that only comes after a sleepless night of pure, concentrated fury. I'd spent hours staring at that hotel confirmation, and somewhere around 4 a.m, a beautiful, twisted idea had crystallized in my mind. If Sarah wanted to play games with fake identities, I was going to give her the performance of a lifetime. I picked up my phone and dialed the Maui Bay Resort, my heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape. Good morning, Maui Bay Resort. This is Kelani speaking. How can I help you? The woman's voice was warm and professional, completely unaware that she was about to become an accomplice in my wife's downfall. Hi there, I said, forcing my voice to sound casual and loving. This is Derek Patterson. My wife Sarah and I have a reservation checking in today, and I wanted to surprise her by upgrading our room. The lie rolled off my tongue smoother than I'd expected. Of course, Mr. Patterson. Let me pull up your reservation. Yes, here we are, Sarah Patterson, Ocean View Suite. What kind of upgrade were you thinking? This was it. The moment of truth. I want to go all out for my beautiful wife. What's your most expensive suite? There was a pause and I could hear keyboard clicking. Well, we have the presidential villa with private beach access, personal butler service, and a full spa package. It's quite expensive though, an additional $3,000 for the 3 nights. $3,000. On top of the $4,000 she'd already spent. My software engineering salary was decent, but this would definitely hurt. The thing is, it wasn't going to hurt me. Perfect, I said, grinning like a maniac. Please charge it to the card we have on file. Absolutely, Mr. Patterson. Your wife is going to be so surprised. Is there anything else I can arrange? Perhaps some champagne or flowers? The works, I said. Spare no expense. I want this to be unforgettable. And oh, it was going to be unforgettable, just not in the way she expected. After hanging up, I felt a rush of satisfaction that was almost intoxicating. But the real fun was just beginning. I spent the next few hours stalking the resort's social media like a digital detective. Hotels love posting photos of their guests having fun. It's free marketing. I refreshed their Instagram page obsessively, waiting for the moment when Sarah and her mystery man would appear. Around 3 p.m. Hawaii time, I hit the jackpot. There, in the resort's Instagram story, was a video of guests arriving at the presidential villa. I watched in fascination as Sarah stepped out of a golf cart, looking absolutely stunning in a white sundress I'd never seen before. But it was the man beside her that made my blood run cold. Tall, dark-haired, probably in his late 30s, with the kind of confident smile that screamed, "I steal other men's wives." He had his arm around Sarah's waist like he owned her, and she was laughing at something he'd said. They looked happy. Disgustingly, perfectly happy. But then something magical happened. A resort employee approached them with a clipboard, and I could see their faces change as he spoke. Even without sound, I could read the confusion in their expressions. Sarah's face went from glowing happiness to puzzled concern in about 3 seconds. The man beside her looked equally bewildered, gesturing with his hands like he was trying to explain something. That's when it hit me like a lightning bolt. The employee was greeting them as Mr. and Mrs. Patterson, just like I'd instructed when I called. But if this guy was Sarah's lover and they were being called the Pattersons, then either this was the most elaborate coincidence in history, or this man's actual last name was Patterson. Which meant somewhere out there was a real Mrs. Patterson who had no idea her husband was playing house with my wife in Hawaii. The thought sent a surge of adrenaline through my system. I screenshotted everything, then immediately dove into detective mode. I started with LinkedIn, searching for men named Patterson in Austin who looked like Sarah's companion. It took me about 20 minutes to find him. Derek Patterson, Regional Sales Manager at TechFlow Solutions. His profile picture matched the man from the Instagram video perfectly. Same smile, same confident posture, same, I'm definitely cheating on my wife, energy. But the real goldmine was his personal information. Married. And not just married to someone who shared his last name naturally. I clicked through to his connections and found her almost immediately. Jennifer Patterson, elementary school art teacher at Riverside Elementary. Her profile picture showed a sweet-looking woman with kind eyes and a genuine smile, the kind of person who probably baked cookies for school fundraisers and remembered everyone's birthday. My heart actually ached for her. Here was an innocent woman who had no idea her husband was currently being pampered in a $7,000 Hawaiian suite with another man's wife. The injustice of it all made my vision blur with rage. Sarah and Derek were living it up on stolen time and borrowed identities while Jennifer was probably grading art projects and wondering why her husband seemed so distant lately. I spent the rest of the afternoon building a complete profile of Derek Patterson. His work history, his social media activity, his wife's information, I gathered it all with the methodical precision of a man who'd found his calling. Every detail was another piece of ammunition, another tool in the carefully constructed trap I was building around my cheating wife and her married lover. By evening, I had enough information to destroy both of their lives, but I wasn't ready to pull the trigger yet. No, this required patience, timing, and most importantly, the right ally. Because if I was going to bring down Derek Patterson, I was going to need the help of the one person who had as much reason to hate him as I did. Mrs. Jennifer Patterson was about to get a very interesting phone call. Let me tell you about the phone call that changed everything. Sunday evening rolled around like a storm cloud, and I knew I had to make the hardest call of my life. Jennifer Patterson's number wasn't hard to find. Teachers' contact information is surprisingly public when you know where to look. I stared at my phone for a solid hour, rehearsing what I was going to say to this woman whose world I was about to shatter. How do you even begin that conversation? Hi, you don't know me, but your husband is currently in Hawaii with my wife, and they're pretending to be married to each other. It sounded insane even in my head. Finally, I just dialed before I could lose my nerve. Hello. Her voice was soft, tired, like she'd been grading papers all day. Hi, is this Jennifer Patterson? Yes, who is this? I could hear caution creeping into her tone. My name is Marcus Chin, and I need to talk to you about your husband Derek. I know this sounds crazy, but I think our spouses are having an affair. The silence on the other end stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Then I heard a shaky intake of breath. What did you say? Your husband Derek is in Hawaii right now with my wife Sarah. They're staying at the Maui Bay Resort under the name Mr. and Mrs. Patterson. I have proof. Another silence, then a bitter laugh that made my heart clench. Of course he is. I knew something was wrong. He said he was at a sales conference in Denver this weekend. We spent the next 4 hours on the phone, and it was like watching two people assemble a jigsaw puzzle from hell. Every piece Jennifer shared fit perfectly with what I'd discovered. She told me Derek had been distant for months, working late, taking mysterious phone calls, and suddenly developing an interest in professional development seminars that required weekend travel. He's been so secretive about his phone lately, she said, her voice getting stronger as anger replaced shock. Last week I saw him delete text messages right in front of me. When I asked about it, he said it was just spam. I shared everything with her, the hotel confirmation, the fake name, the Instagram photos, the expensive upgrade I'd arranged. When I told her about the $7,000 in charges, she gasped. $7,000? Marcus, that's going to show up on our credit card statement. Derek handles all our finances, but I get email notifications for large purchases. That's when things got really interesting. Jennifer logged into their online banking while we were still talking, and what we found was even worse than I'd imagined. "Oh my God," she whispered, and I could hear her crying. "There are charges going back 2 months. Expensive dinners, hotel rooms, jewelry purchases. He's been spending thousands on this affair." But the real bombshell came when Jennifer started digging deeper into the paper trail. "Marcus, some of these restaurant charges are from weekdays, during business hours. How was Derek taking Sarah to lunch when he was supposed to be at work?" That got my detective instincts buzzing. "Can you send me those statements? I want to check something." While Jennifer emailed me the bank records, I started cross-referencing the dates and times with Sarah's work schedule. What I found made my blood boil. Sarah had been using her work email to coordinate these meetings, booking hotels and restaurants through her company account for client meetings that were actually secret rendezvous with Derek. She'd been violating every ethics policy at the Women's Empowerment Foundation, using nonprofit resources to facilitate her affair. "Jennifer, I think we've got them on more than just cheating," I said, feeling that cold calculation settling over me again. "Sarah works for a nonprofit, and she's been using work resources for personal affairs. That's a fireable offense, maybe even criminal misuse of charitable funds." Jennifer's voice got quiet and deadly. "What do you want to do about it?" That question hung in the air like a loaded gun. We both knew we had enough evidence to destroy both of their lives completely. But this wasn't about emotion anymore. This was about justice. Pure, calculated, methodical justice. We spent the next hour planning our approach with the precision of military strategists. Jennifer would gather every financial record, every bank statement, every credit card charge related to the affair. I would compile all the digital evidence, the emails, the hotel confirmations, the social media posts. Together, we would build an airtight case that would leave both Derek and Sarah with nowhere to hide. "I'm going to file a formal complaint with Sarah's board of directors," Jennifer said, her voice steady now. "Using nonprofit resources for personal affairs is a serious violation. They'll have to investigate, and when they do, they'll find everything." I was impressed by how quickly she'd shifted from heartbroken wife to strategic partner. "I'll document everything for divorce proceedings. Every lie, every deception, every dollar spent on this affair. Sarah thinks she's been so clever, but she's actually been building her own case against herself." The beauty of our plan was its simplicity. We weren't going to confront them directly or create dramatic scenes. We were going to let their own actions destroy them. Every credit card charge, every work email, every social media post, it was all evidence of their betrayal, and they'd created it themselves. By the time we hung up, Jennifer and I had become unlikely allies in the most important mission of our lives. We exchanged all our contact information and promised to stay in touch as we executed our plan. There was no crying, no emotional breakdowns, just two people who'd been betrayed working together to ensure justice was served. As I looked at the mountain of evidence spread across my desk, I felt something I hadn't experienced in weeks. Sarah and Derek thought they were so smart, so careful with their elaborate deception. They had no idea that their perfect little fantasy was about to become the most expensive mistake of their lives. Now let me tell you how we brought their whole world crashing down. Monday morning hit like a hurricane, and Jennifer and I were ready to unleash hell. We'd spent all Sunday night perfecting our strategy, and by dawn, we had everything in place. The beauty of our plan was its surgical precision, no screaming, no dramatic confrontations, just cold, calculated consequences delivered through official channels. Jennifer struck first. At exactly 9 a.m., she called Sarah's credit card company and reported the card stolen. "My husband's wallet was taken, and there are unauthorized charges in Hawaii," she told them, her voice steady as steel. Within minutes, Sarah's cards were frozen solid. Imagine being in paradise, about to pay for your romantic breakfast, and having your card declined. Then the second card. Then the third. I actually felt a twinge of satisfaction knowing that somewhere in Maui, Sarah was experiencing her first taste of panic. But we were just getting started. While Jennifer handled the financial nuclear strike, I was busy preparing my own weapon of mass destruction. That morning, I drafted a detailed formal complaint to the board of directors at the Women's Empowerment Foundation. Every work email Sarah had sent to coordinate her affair. Every client meeting that was actually a secret rendezvous. Every nonprofit resource she'd misused to facilitate her betrayal. I laid it all out with the methodical precision of a prosecutor building a case. Dear board members, I began, I am writing to report serious ethics violations by your development director, Sarah Chin, who has been systematically misusing organizational resources for personal affairs. I attached bank statements, hotel confirmations, restaurant receipts, and screenshots of work emails. Everything was documented, dated, and cross-referenced. It was a masterpiece of evidence that would make any lawyer weep with joy. By noon, Jennifer called me with an update that made my heart sing. The credit card company called Derek's office looking for him. His secretary had to explain that he was supposed to be at a sales conference in Denver, not Hawaii. His boss is asking questions. Meanwhile, my formal complaint had landed on the desk of the foundation's ethics committee like a bombshell. These were serious people who took their mission seriously, and the idea that their development director was using charitable resources for adultery was exactly the kind of scandal that could destroy their reputation. They launched an immediate investigation. But the real fireworks started Tuesday morning. Sarah called me from Hawaii, and I could hear the desperation in her voice from 4,000 miles away. Marcus, something's wrong with my credit cards. They're all frozen, and the hotel is asking for payment. I don't understand what's happening. I let her panic for a few seconds before responding with perfect calm. Oh, that's terrible, Sarah. Have you tried calling the credit card company? Maybe there's been some kind of mistake. I did. They said the cards were reported stolen, but that's impossible. Derek's wallet wasn't stolen. The slip was beautiful. In her panic, she'd admitted Derek was there with her, confirming everything I already knew. Derek? I asked, injecting just the right amount of confusion into my voice. Who's Derek? I thought you were at a medical conference. The silence on the other end was deafening. I could practically hear her brain scrambling for an explanation. It's complicated, Marcus. I can explain when I get home. I'm sure you can, I said, my voice still perfectly calm. By the way, you might want to check your work email. I think there might be some important messages waiting for you. I hung up before she could respond, and I imagine the next few hours were absolute hell for her. She was stranded in Hawaii with no way to pay for anything, her affair exposed, and her job in jeopardy. But we still weren't finished. Jennifer had one final masterstroke planned. She'd calculated every single expense from their affair, the Hawaii trip, the expensive dinners, the hotel rooms, the jewelry, even the gas money for driving to meet each other. Then she itemized everything and sent Derek a formal invoice for his half of their joint expenses. Since you chose to spend our money on adultery, she wrote in the cover letter, I'm expecting full reimbursement for your share of our marital expenses. Please remit payment within 30 days to avoid further legal action. The total came to over $15,000. Derek's response was to call her, screaming about how she was being unreasonable and vindictive. Vindictive? Jennifer repeated his words to me later. I'm being vindictive? He spent our savings on another woman and I'm the vindictive one. That's when she delivered the final blow. Actually, Derek, you're right. I am being vindictive. I've also filed for divorce and sent copies of all your affair expenses to your HR department. Enjoy explaining to your boss why you were in Hawaii instead of Denver. Thursday morning, Sarah came home to find the locks changed on our house. The house was in my name only, we'd never gotten around to adding her to the deed, something she'd complained about for years. Now I was grateful for that oversight. I'd left her belongings in neat boxes on the front porch, along with a note that simply said, Everything you need to know is in the manila envelope. Inside that envelope was a copy of my divorce filing, the ethics complaint I'd sent to her foundation, and a detailed timeline of her affair with supporting documentation. No angry letter, no emotional accusations, just facts. By Friday, Sarah had been terminated from the Women's Empowerment Foundation for gross misconduct and violation of organizational ethics policies. Derek had been suspended from his sales job pending investigation. Both of them were facing divorce proceedings that would strip them of everything they'd built. The last I heard, Sarah was living in an extended stay hotel near the airport, trying to find work while dealing with the fallout from her termination. Derek was sleeping on his brother's couch, having lost his house, his job, and his marriage. Their perfect romantic getaway had cost them everything they'd ever worked for. As for me, I kept the house, kept my job, and kept my dignity. I never screamed, never threw things, never had an emotional breakdown. I just documented everything and let their own actions destroy them. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting mad, it's getting methodical. Jennifer and I still talk occasionally, comparing notes on our respective divorce proceedings. She's doing well, teaching her art classes and building a new life for herself. We both learned that sometimes the most devastating weapon against betrayal isn't anger, it's patience, precision, and a really good filing system. Sarah thought she was so clever with her fake identity and elaborate lies. But in the end, she just built her own prison, one credit card charge at a time.